This prophecy will come true before the 1st of January 2017, and you will know God's wrath will bestow upon our lands with great vengeance. But I will warn you whom to fear. Fear him who, after he is killed, has authority to cast into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him. To understand 12:5, the holy texts of the Bible are full of metaphors and symbolism because the prophets try to describe things that exist in the future using words available in their time. So when the prophets saw airplanes in their visions, the description would be mount up to heaven, referring to air travel and the Air Force, just like it will ascend above the heights of the clouds. It will be like the Most High is clearly a metaphor for reaching space. The fact that both of these metaphors refer to the nation known to the Bible scholars as Babylon or Mystery Babylon is no coincidence. Mystery Babylon is an end times nation. How else would it be able to have an air force and reach space? And it is described in great detail by John the Apostle in the book of Revelation and by the prophets Jeremiah and Isaiah, holy men who have heard the word of God and carefully put in writing to save our lost souls when the tribulation day as a queen among nations and the lady of kingdoms. Isaiah 47:5-7. It is the youngest and only superpower in the world. Jeremiah 47, Revelations 18. According to the prophets, Babylon reigneth over the kings of the earth. Revelation 17:18. It was the praise of the entire earth and an astonishment among the nations. Jeremiah 51:47. Babylon is a democracy weighed down by its huge government. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Babylon destroys her own land with pollution and waste, because thou hast destroyed thy land. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Ask yourself this: how can an early day prophet know about pollution, since there is no such thing in ancient times? The answer may be already obvious. Babylon has the most powerful military force on the planet and is called the hammer of the whole earth. The merchants of the world are made rich through trading with this nation, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Is it starting to look like they are telling us about the United States of America? The portraiture gets even more specific from now on. Babylon is praised in the entire world. How is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How has Babylon become an astonishment among the nation? Babylon, current-day Iraq, has very limited access to the sea. Babylon has a unique and remarkable beginning, different from other nations, and has been awe-inspiring from its birth. The U.S. is the first country to successfully become independent from a colonial empire, the British Empire. We speak the English language, and we are the descendants of the first British colonies. That is why England is like a mother to the U.S. It fits perfectly with the description in Jeremiah 50:12. More so, the mother of Babylon has the symbol of the lion. The royal symbol of England independence is a lion. The British pound is no longer the world reserve currency. It has been replaced by the dollar, the currency of its daughter. The prophets also foretold that Babylon becomes proud and arrogant and does not consider its end. Therefore, hear now this: thou that art given to pleasure, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Does this sound like American exceptionalism? The strong belief rooted inside our people that America is different from other nations, better than them in every possible way. Even the name Mystery Babylon is deeply symbolic. It's a mystery because the prophets, at the time of the visions, didn't know of the existence of the North American continent. They literally had no idea what they were actually seeing and described it as best as the personification of Babylon in the scriptures as a woman. The prophets used the word her. This is another very precise clue given to us through metaphors and symbolism that are so abundant in the Holy Book. So I tell you this: what is the most widely known symbol of America? What is the image most immigrants and tourists associate with the U.S.? Is it a woman symbolizing liberty that sits in the harbor of the most important city in the United States? This is very cryptic but important, as it shows how accurate the prophecy is. The prophets talk about the U.S. by using its most recognizable monument, the Statue of Liberty. So why on earth are they also calling it the Whore of Babylon?
You know, the sculptor of the Statue of Liberty was Auguste Bertoldi. He was a Mason belonging to the Great Masonic Lodge in Paris. Before beginning the Statue of Liberty project, Bertoldi was already seeking a commission to construct a giant statue of the goddess of fertility, Isis, as it was known to the Egyptians, or Ishtar, as it was known to the ancient Babylonians. Well, the Romans also adopted this fertility goddess, but they changed the name to Libertas in Latin, or Liberty in English, of course. Libertas is the mythological equivalent of Isis or Ishtar. Therefore, the Statue of Liberty is also the statue of Isis, or as the Babylons called her, Ishtar, the goddess of fertility, love, and sex. According to the ancient pagan rituals, one could only be purified of a sin after intercourse with a temple priest or priestess of Ishtar. In order for this salvation, a gift offering was needed. Ishtar was the patron mother of the temple priestesses and priests. She was the mother of what we would call today prostitution. This is why Ishtar was seen by early Christendom as the Whore of Babylon. And that is why the Statue of Liberty, the symbol of America, is called by the prophets as the Whore of Babylon.
For every living American, Mystery Babylon. Why? Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. A sound of a cry cometh from Babylon, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans. Because the Lord hath spoiled Babylon, and destroyed out of her the great voice. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, and mourning, and famine, and she shall be burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. All three prophets tell of the fall of Babylon, the destruction of the United States of America as we know it. This is not an event that happened to ancient Babylon in the past. History has never recorded the fall of a state or a city in the way described by the prophets. And just like all the events accurately predicted by the Bible, the two world wars, the rise and fall of communism, and the return of the Jewish people to their homeland, and so many others, this too will happen. The only questions left to ask are, who will cause its fall, when, and how?
Isaiah 13:5. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, and the weapons of his indignation, to destroy the whole land. Jeremiah 50:3. For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate. Jeremiah 50:9. For I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. Now draw a straight line north of the U.S. through the Arctic, the end of heaven, and you will find the answer. Russia is the great enemy of Babylon, the enemy destined to destroy it. The Holy Scriptures is again very precise. Even though it has been written centuries before the U.S. or Russia became world powers, it clearly describes both countries that are prophesied to start World War III. And at the start of the World War III, Russia will use a very special weapon, the weapon of indignation, against the whole territory of the U.S.
As you have seen before, we are going through the biblical end times. Babylon America has fulfilled the prophecies that foretold its coming, and now, according to the Bible, it will meet its demise. The clues about when the great disaster shall befall it are hidden in the book of Daniel, another major biblical prophet. In chapter 1140 of his prophecies describes a great war fought by two kings at the end times, one from the north and one from the south. So, if we could connect these two kings to two current world leaders, we would know how close we are to the destruction of Babylon. The key to understanding the clue of the two kings is the position of Jerusalem, because this is where Daniel had his revelations. To the north of Jerusalem is Moscow, birthplace of Vladimir Putin. What else does the prophecy say about the king of the north? And the king shall do according to his will. Putin does what he wants. He controls the media, the military, and the economy of Russia. Neither shall he regard the gods of his fathers, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. The fact that gods is not written with a capital letter is a clear clue to what exactly the prophet is referring to: communism. The gods of the communists are Lenin, Marx, Stalin, who have ruled Russia for over 80 years. They are practically worshipped by the Russian people, and statues and pictures of them were everywhere across the USSR. But as prophecy foretold, Putin distanced himself from communism and denounced its flaws and sins against Russia and the Russian people. He shall magnify himself above all. Russian media portrays Putin as a huntsman, judo expert, chess master, brilliant politician and diplomat, pilot, and overall strongman, above the former communist leaders in every way. But in his estate shall he honor the god of forces. Russian military spending has exploded since Putin came to power. What about the king of the south? Geographically, he has to be born in the south of Jerusalem. Barack Obama was born either in Hawaii or Kenya, depending on who you want to believe, both of which are in the south of Jerusalem. But what does the prophet say about him? And in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Never in our history have so many people disagreed with U.S. policies or hated the United States, Russia, China, North Korea, a big part of the Muslim world, including Syria, Egypt, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the list goes on and on. Remember the assembly of great nations that invade America. These clues prove that Obama is the king of the South as the prophecies foretold. So if Barack Obama and Vladimir Putin are the kings of prophecy, then their war must start before they leave office. That means January 2017. The end of Babylon is very, very near, and we are directly on course for this prophecy to be fulfilled. And Obama is playing his part to the letter. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him. These words are coming true as we speak. Remember, according to the prophecy, Russia must unexpectedly use the weapon of indignation first and then invade alongside its allies. Alarmingly, Obama's push has started as far back as 2011. Syria. Syria is an oil-exporting country with strong ties to Russia and home of the only Russian naval base in the Mediterranean.
Довод НАТО таков. Ракетный щит возводится не против вас, а против Ирана.
The Ukrainian conflict saw the Western powers led by Obama imposing drastic economic sanctions on Russian banking and energy sectors, key parts of Russian economy. Interestingly, economic sanctions have preceded every U.S. war in the 21st century. Russian oil exports were the target of a secret deal signed between Obama and Saudi Arabia that caused the price of oil to dive from $100 a barrel to close to $40. That Russia is dependent on oil exports as 40% of its budget comes from it. That is why the Russian ruble, the Russian currency, has lost 50% of its value since August 2014. That means that people in Russia can only buy half the stuff they used to afford. Once poverty starts kicking in, the Russians will want blood, and Putin will be left with very few options. Because when Russia falls apart, war will be the only option. And the King of the North knows this too well. You are now witnessing the last months, maybe weeks, before the Russian attack that destroys Mystery Babylon, Obama's America. The Bible tells us all about the Russian attack, and most importantly, Putin's weapon of indignation, a weapon unlike anything the world has ever seen before. This weapon can hit an entire country. How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? This weapon makes the U.S. military unable to respond, broken because of what looks like equipment malfunction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. Their might hath failed. because the spoiler is come upon her, even upon Babylon, and her mighty men are taken. Every one of their bows is broken, and this weapon leaves Babylon silent and in darkness. Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called.
Scrambles fighters after Russian bombers seen off US west coast. NORAD scrambled F-22 and F-15 fighters after Russian long-range bombers were spotted 50 miles off the California coast earlier this week. 4 Russian Tu-95 Bear H long-range strategic bombers and a refueling tanker were first seen entering the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone at about 4:30 p.m. After 2 F-22s made visual contact with them, the bombers left the ADIZ and headed west. 5 hours later, 2 of the Russian bombers were detected again and identified within 50 miles of the California coast by 2 F-15 fighters. The ADIZ extends approximately 200 nautical miles seawards from the US coastline. As part of training missions, Russian planes have flown within the ADIZ dozens of times over the past several years.
Look at the left one. He is on the deck. On the deck, below the bridge link.
And the public are a bunch of sheep, thinking this is to protect them from terrorists. Terroristas! Give me a break!
We have shocking video this evening from a recent U.S. Marines training drill in Yuma, Arizona, where it shows armed troops chasing down American citizens in a mock internment camp, this during a martial law style scenario. The exercise, which involved U.S. Marines from the 1st Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment, 1st Marine Division, it took place on April 18th and revolved around assault support tactics training. The video shows Marines landing in a helicopter on a field next to a busy highway. Local citizens can be seen watching the exercise over a chain link fence while role players take part in the drill. And by the way, these exercises are happening all across the country right now, and Jade Helm hasn't even started yet. One of the role players, you can see him right here, he tries to escape the compound and is chased down and handcuffed by an armed Marine. And you could even hear the role players shouting things out like, "Let me out!" Because, well, it looks like they are training to put Americans in internment camps. And if these drills are supposed to be for urban warfare in the Middle East, like the U.S. military claims, then why do the role players always shout things out like, "I'm a sovereign citizen, I have my rights," or "Don't take my guns"? I mean, that's the routine. That's what we're seeing from these drills. And why are they building mock cities like they did at Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia, where the street signs are clearly in English and they resemble an average American town? Don't forget, it was Alex Jones who went to a drill in California. This was several years ago, and he captured a video of the U.S. military processing American citizens into an internment camp. As the voice over the loudspeaker, well, you can hear him shouting, "We will not tolerate civil disobedience."
Attention, attention, attention. American forces are here to help. Remain calm. We will not tolerate civil disobedience.